She smiled when she said it. I have a date tonight. 4 words. That's all it took to shatter Sebastian Santos. The most dangerous man in Los Angeles, the one who built an empire on blood and silence, froze. His jaw locked. His hands went white. Because he knew something she didn't. The man picking her up in 20 minutes? The one who left sweet notes at the coffee shop? The one who made his maid, Kessia Rivers, blush for the first time in months? That wasn't Daniel. That was Dante Kovac, the ghost Sebastian had been hunting across 3 continents. The monster who killed his sister. His deadliest enemy. And she had absolutely no idea she just agreed to have dinner with a killer. Now Sebastian had one choice. Blow his cover and lose her forever, or stay silent and let her walk into a massacre. Either way, someone was dying tonight. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you are hooked in and ready to enjoy the story, click subscribe and let me know in the comment section where you are watching from, because tomorrow I'll be giving you an interesting story such as this one and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Sebastian didn't look like a monster. That was his greatest weapon. At 37, he wore his power in the sharp lines of custom Italian suits, in the gray threading through his dark hair at the temples, in the way his silence made men twice his size flinch. He'd built an empire on fear, but lately, fear had been eating him from the inside. The Reason stood 10 feet behind him, humming something soft and melodic as she arranged fresh flowers in a crystal vase. Kessia Rivers. His maid. His torment. His unexpected salvation. She'd walked into his life 8 months ago through an agency, answering an ad for household staff. He'd barely glanced up during the interview. Just another face, another person to fade into the background of his carefully controlled world. But Kessia didn't fade. She hummed while she worked. She left windows open to let in jasmine-scented air. She smiled at him like he was human. It had unraveled him slowly, thread by thread. Mr. Santos, should I prepare dinner for 7 or will you be eating late? Her voice carried the subtle music of her Louisiana roots, a warmth that didn't belong in his cold world. He didn't turn. 7 is fine. Sebastian caught her reflection in the glass. Dark skin that seemed to hold sunlight, natural hair pulled back in a simple bun, wearing the modest gray uniform he'd required. She was beautiful in a way that didn't demand attention but deserved it. 29 years old, working 2 jobs, sending money home to a sick mother in Baton Rouge. He knew everything about her. He'd had her investigated the moment he realized she made him feel something other than empty. Will it just be you, or are you expecting company? She moved closer, adjusting the curtains, and Sebastian's jaw tightened at her proximity. Alone. Always alone. That was the price of his kingdom. Kessia's fingers paused on the fabric. You know, Mr. Santos, you work too hard. When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Something fun. Fun. The word was foreign in his mouth. He'd forgotten what it meant somewhere between his first kill at 17 and his 27th body last month. I don't have time for fun, Miss Rivers. Everyone needs time for fun. She stepped into his peripheral vision, and he forced himself to keep staring at the city. Looking at her directly had become dangerous. Made him think impossible things. Actually, speaking of which, she trailed off, and something in her tone made his shoulders tense. Yes. I wanted to let you know I'll need to leave a bit early today. Kessia's voice carried a nervous brightness he'd never heard before. I have a date tonight. The words hit him like a physical blow. Sebastian's hands, still clasped behind his back, clenched until his knuckles went white. The skyline blurred. His pulse, usually a steady rhythm even in gunfights, began to pound in his ears. A date. He said nothing. Couldn't. The carefully constructed mask he wore every day threatened to crack, and beneath it was something raw and violent and desperate. "Mr. Santis?" Kessia's voice softened with concern. "Is that all right? I can stay if you need." "It's fine." The words came out rougher than intended. He felt her flinch behind him. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Sebastian's mind raced through scenarios. Who was he? Where had she met him? How dare someone touch what was? He stopped the thought coldly. She wasn't his. She was his employee. Nothing more. That's what he'd been telling himself for 8 months. Even as she became the only reason he came home, the only person whose presence made the blood on his hands feel less permanent. "His name is Daniel," Kessia continued, filling the quiet. Sebastian heard the smile in her voice and wanted to destroy something. "We met at the coffee shop on 5th Street. He's been coming in for weeks, always leaving these sweet notes with his tip. Finally asked me out properly yesterday." Daniel. Sebastian filed the name away for later destruction. "I hope you don't mind that I'm telling you this." Kessia moved back toward the flowers, her humming resume, softer now. I haven't been on a real date in so long. It feels nice. Being seen, you know?" Sebastian closed his eyes. "I see you," he wanted to say. "I see everything. Every smile, every song, every moment you think you're alone. I see you, and it's destroying me." But he said nothing. Because men like Sebastian Santis didn't get to have women like Kessia Rivers. Men like him got blood and silence and the cold comfort of fear. The jealous Mafia boss went silent and looked at her finally, turning slow. His eyes, dark and bottomless, found hers across the room. Kessia's breath caught. She'd never seen him look at her like that before. Like he was memorizing her. Like he was saying goodbye. "Enjoy your date, Miss Rivers," Sebastian said quietly, each word tasting like ash. Then he walked past her, leaving jasmine air and unspoken truths in his wake. Have you ever stayed silent about your feelings because you thought you didn't deserve them? Let me know in the comments what you would do in Sebastian's position. 3 hours later, Sebastian sat in his private study, a glass of whiskey untouched on the desk beside him. The room was dark except for the blue glow of the computer screen before him, casting shadows across his face that made him look exactly like what he was, a predator watching his prey. On the screen, surveillance footage from the coffee shop on 5th Street. He'd made the call 20 minutes after Kessia left, her perfume still lingering in the hallway, something vanilla and simple that she probably bought at a drugstore. His men were efficient. Within an hour, he had everything. Security footage, transaction records, a full background check on every male customer who'd visited that coffee shop in the past month. And then he found him. Sebastian's hand froze on the mouse, his entire body going rigid. The man on screen had dark blonde hair, an easy smile, expensive casual clothes designed to look effortless. He was leaving cash tips with notes, just like Kessia said. The camera caught him in profile as he glanced back at her, and Sebastian's blood turned to ice. He knew that face. Dante Kovac. The name burned through his mind like acid. His finger moved mechanically, pulling up another file. One he kept locked behind 3 layers of encryption. Photos spilled across the screen. Dante Kovac, born Daniel Kovac in Prague, became an American at 12. Arms dealer. Information broker. The man responsible for the assassination attempt that killed Sebastian's sister 4 years ago. The man Sebastian had been hunting like a ghost through 3 continents. And he was taking Kessia on a date. The glass in Sebastian's hand shattered. He didn't realize he'd been gripping it until blood dripped onto the mahogany desk, mixing with whiskey. The pain was distant, irrelevant. His mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Does he know who she is? Does he know she works for me? Is this revenge? A trap? Or worse, was it a coincidence? Had Dante stumbled onto the one pure thing in Sebastian's life without even knowing its value? His phone buzzed. A text from Marco, his second-in-command. Target confirmed at Castellano's restaurant. Same table you suspected. Waiting for the girl. Castellano's. Sebastian's jaw clenched. Of course Dante would choose there. Neutral ground, owned by the Moretti family who stayed carefully out of the blood wars. Public enough to seem safe. Private enough for quiet conversation. Another text. Orders. Sebastian stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. He could end this in 100 different ways. A sniper on the roof across the street. Poison in the wine. A simple car accident on the way home. He'd killed for so much less. But Kessia would be there. Kessia, who hummed while arranging flowers. Who smiled at him like he was human. Who was at this very moment probably checking her reflection one last time, nervous and hopeful, thinking she was just a woman going on a date with a charming man who saw her. She had no idea she was walking into the center of a blood war. Sebastian stood abruptly, grabbing his car keys and his gun, a Glock 19, worn smooth from use. His hands moved with mechanical precision. Shoulder holster, jacket to cover it, phone, wallet, the mask he wore so well sliding back into place. He had to see this himself. 20 minutes later, Sebastian sat in his car across from Castellano's, watching through tinted windows as Dante Kovac waited at a corner table, checking his watch. The restaurant glowed warm and inviting, string lights wrapped around olive trees in the courtyard, couples laughing over wine. A place for love. Not for men like them. Then she arrived. Sebastian's chest constricted painfully. Kessia had changed from her uniform into a simple dress. Deep blue, modest but beautiful, hugging curves he'd forced himself never to notice. Her hair was down, natural curls framing her face. She'd put on lipstick, something dark and pretty. She looked nervous, tucking hair behind her ear as she approached the entrance. She looked hopeful. Dante stood when he saw her, that easy smile spreading across his face. He said something that made her laugh, then pulled out her chair. The perfect gentleman. Sebastian's finger moved unconsciously to his gun. One shot. Clean. Through the window. I could end him right now. But Kessia sat down across from Dante, still smiling, and Sebastian's hand fell away. Because she didn't know. She didn't know she was sitting across from a killer. She didn't know the man watching from the darkness was one too. She didn't know that this simple date had just become the most dangerous night of her life. She thought she was being seen. Being chosen. And maybe she was. Just not the way she imagined. Dante leaned forward, saying something that made Kessia's eyes widen slightly. He reached across the table, his hand moving toward hers. Sebastian's vision tunneled, his breathing shallow. Then Dante's phone buzzed. He glanced down, and his expression shifted. Just for a second, the charming mask slipping to reveal something cold and calculating underneath. He typed something quickly, then smiled at Kessia again, all warmth and attention. But Sebastian had seen it. The momentary truth. Dante knew exactly who Kessia was. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a message. Sebastian's phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Enjoying the show, Santis? She's lovely. We should talk about sharing. The jealous Mafia boss went completely still, every muscle in his body coiling like a snake about to strike. His dark eyes locked onto Dante through the restaurant window, and for the first time in 4 years, his enemy stared back, raising a wine glass in mock toast, that easy smile now edged with cruelty. Kessia noticed nothing, laughing at something Dante said, completely unaware that two monsters were circling each other around her fragile, beautiful light. Sebastian made his choice in that moment. He couldn't kill Dante. Not tonight. Not with her there. But he could make damn sure she never came near him again, even if it meant revealing every dark thing he'd spent 8 months hiding. Sebastian didn't go inside. He couldn't trust himself, not with the gun weighing against his ribs, not with the way his hand shook with the need to cross that street and tear Dante apart with his bare hands. Instead, he watched. Every smile Dante gave her. Every time Kessia's face lit up with laughter. Every moment that should have been his. The date lasted 97 minutes. Sebastian counted every one. When Dante finally walked Kessia to her car, a 12-year-old Honda she kept immaculate, Sebastian's grip on the steering wheel turned his knuckles white. Dante leaned in, said something close to her ear. Kessia blushed, ducked her head, and smiled. But she didn't kiss him. She shook his hand, professional, careful, then got in her car alone. Sebastian released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He followed her home from a distance, watching until her apartment lights came on in the modest building in Koreatown. Only then did he allow himself to feel the rage that had been building like a pressure cooker in his chest. His phone rang. "Marco." "Talk," Sebastian growled. Kovac left the restaurant 20 minutes ago. Headed east toward the warehouse district. "Want me to?" "No." Sebastian's voice was ice. "Pull everyone back. No one touches him tonight." Silence on the other end. Then carefully, "Boss, this is the closest we've been in 4 years. If we let him go." "I said no." Sebastian ended the call. He sat in the darkness outside Kessia's building for another hour, warring with himself. Part of him wanted to go up there, tell her everything. "That man is a killer, he's using you, you're in danger because of me." But the words stuck in his throat like shattered glass. Because telling her the truth meant telling her his truth. That he wasn't just her employer. That he'd had her investigated. That he knew her mother's medication schedule and her sister's college tuition payments. That he'd been watching her, wanting her, falling for her while lying about everything he was. That the monsters weren't just at her door. One was already inside, had been for months, disguised as the quiet man who paid her salary. The next morning, Kessia arrived at the estate at 7 a.m. as usual, her key turning in the service entrance. She found Sebastian in the kitchen, unusual, as he normally took his coffee in his study. He looked like he hadn't slept. Still wearing yesterday's clothes, tie loosened, the careful mask he wore slightly askew. "Mr. Santis?" Kessia's voice carried concern as she set down her bag. "Are you all right?" "Fine." He didn't look at her, staring into his coffee cup like it held answers. Kessia moved around the kitchen, starting her morning routine, but Sebastian felt her glances like physical touches. The silence stretched too long, too heavy. "How was your date?" The words came out before he could stop them, each one tasting like poison. Kessia's face brightened, and Sebastian's chest ached. "It was nice. Really nice, actually. Daniel's a gentleman. We talked about everything. Books, travel, family. He's got this way of listening that makes you feel like you're the only person in the world." "Because he's interrogating you," Sebastian thought viciously. "Every word you say, he's cataloging it, using it." "That's good." Sebastian forced the words out. He already texted asking about a second date this weekend. Kessia pulled out fresh fruit for breakfast, her movements light. "I know it's probably too soon to be excited, but I haven't felt this way in a long time. Like maybe I'm not invisible after all." Something in Sebastian's chest cracked. She thought she was invisible. This woman who lit up every room she entered, who made his cold mansion feel like a home. She thought no one saw her. I see you, he wanted to scream. I've seen nothing but you for 8 months. Miss Rivers. His voice came out rougher than intended. I need to discuss something with you. Kessia turned, fruit knife still in her hand, curious. Of course. Sebastian opened his mouth. The truth sat on his tongue. That man is dangerous, you're in danger. I'm in love with you and I'm a killer and this is all my fault. But looking at her face, still glowing with hope from last night, still believing in good things and gentle men and the possibility of being chosen, he couldn't do it. Couldn't be the one to kill that light. I'll need you to work late this Friday, he said instead, the lie bitter. I'm hosting a dinner. Business associates. Disappointment flickered across Kessia's face. Oh, that's when Daniel wanted to meet again. I'll pay you double. Sebastian hated himself for the words even as he said them. It's important. Kessia nodded slowly, the brightness dimming. Of course, Mr. Santos. Whatever you need. She turned back to the fruit, and Sebastian saw her shoulders slump slightly. Saw her retreating back into that space where she believed she was just the help, just invisible, just someone whose time could be bought. He'd hurt her to protect her, and she didn't even know it. Miss Rivers, he said quietly. Yes. Tell her. Tell her everything. Tell her that you're a monster but so is he, and at least your monster loves her. Thank you, Sebastian said instead, the coward's choice. Kessia glanced back, confused. For what? For making me feel human. For 8 months of jasmine air and humming. For making me wish I was someone different. For your hard work, he said. The mask was back in place. Perfect and impenetrable. Kessia nodded, returning to her tasks, and Sebastian walked away before she could see the truth written all over his face. That he was in love with her, and that love was about to get them both killed. Friday arrived too quickly and not quickly enough. Sebastian had spent the week in a carefully controlled frenzy, tracking Dante's movements, fortifying his security, and watching Kessia move through his house like she always did, humming songs he'd started recognizing, smiling at him like he deserved it. She'd texted Daniel to cancel their second date. Sebastian knew because he'd had her phone cloned. Another sin to add to the mountain between them. The dinner party was real. 6 of Sebastian's most trusted associates, men who understood the language of violence and loyalty. But the real purpose was keeping Kessia close, where he could see her, protect her, control the situation spiraling beyond his grasp. Dante had gone quiet. No texts, no movements, no traces. That scared Sebastian more than anything. Mr. Santos, the caterers are asking about the wine selection. Kessia appeared in his study doorway, dressed in her uniform, hair pinned up, professional and beautiful and completely unaware of the war being fought around her. The 2015 Bordeaux, Sebastian said without looking up from the security feeds on his screen. And Miss Rivers? Yes. Stay close to the house tonight. Don't go outside for any reason. Kessia frowned slightly. Is everything all right? You've been different this week. Different. That was one word for it. Unraveling was another. Everything's fine. The lie came easily now, worn smooth with repetition. Just security precautions. Some threats against business partners. It wasn't entirely untrue. The dinner began at 8. Sebastian played his role perfectly, the sophisticated host, discussing real estate and investments while his mind tracked Kessia's movements through the house. He'd positioned Marco at the service entrance, 2 more men on the perimeter, cameras on every angle. Dante wouldn't get to her. Not tonight. Not ever. At 9:30, the power went out. The house plunged into darkness for exactly 4 seconds before the backup generators kicked in, bathing everything in emergency lighting. Sebastian was on his feet instantly, hand moving to the gun at his back. "Gentlemen, if you'll excuse me." His voice remained calm even as his pulse spiked. "Minor electrical issue. Miss Rivers will serve coffee while I check the breaker." But he wasn't checking any breaker. He found Kessia in the kitchen, standing by the window, her phone's flashlight illuminating her concerned face. "Mr. Santos, I think I saw something outside. By the garden." Sebastian's blood ran cold. "Get away from the window. Now." The command in his voice made her jump, but she obeyed, moving toward him. "What's going on?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. A text from Marco. "Perimeter breach. East Garden. Can't find the source." Then another text, from the unknown number. "We need to talk, Santos. Just you and me. Send her to the garden house. 5 minutes. Or I start shooting." Sebastian's jaw clenched so hard he tasted blood. "Miss Rivers, I need you to go to my study and lock the door." He was already moving, positioning himself between her and the windows. "Don't come out until I get you. You're scaring me." Kessia's voice trembled. "What's happening?" "Just do it. Please." The please was unusual enough that she stared at him, eyes wide. Another text. 4 minutes. I'd hate for your dinner guests to get caught in the crossfire. Such a mess." Sebastian made a decision he'd regret for the rest of his life. "Actually," he said, forcing his voice to gentle, "come with me." He led her through the service hallway toward the back of the house, his mind racing. Marco and his men couldn't find Dante, which meant he had help. Probably mercenaries, professionals good enough to breach Sebastian's security. The garden house was a trap, but Sebastian couldn't risk Dante making good on his threat. Not with Kessia in the house. Not with innocent men in his dining room. "Where are we going?" Kessia asked as Sebastian unlocked a door she'd never seen open before. The one leading to his private garden and the small guest house beyond. "Somewhere safe." Another lie. He was leading her directly into danger, but at least this way she'd be with him. At least he could control it. The garden was dark, lit only by scattered solar lights along the path. Sebastian kept Kessia behind him, his hand resting on his concealed weapon. Every shadow could be death. They reached the garden house, a small, elegant structure he used for private meetings. The door was already open. Inside, Dante Kovacs sat in a leather chair, perfectly relaxed, a gun resting casually on his thigh. 2 men flanked him, both armed. Kessia gasped, stumbling back against Sebastian. "Daniel." "Hello, Kessia." Dante's smile was warm, charming, completely at odds with the weapon in his hand. "Sorry about the dramatic setup. Your boss and I have some business to discuss." "Mr. Santos?" Kessia's voice was small, confused, looking between the 2 men. Sebastian felt her against his back, trembling. Felt the weight of his gun, the distance to Dante, the calculations of violence running through his mind like water. He could draw and fire in less than a second. Might take out Dante before the others reacted. But Kessia would see. Would know. Would understand exactly what he was. "Let her go," Sebastian said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of barely controlled rage. "Whatever this is, it's between us." Dante laughed, tilting his head. "See, that's where you're wrong, old friend. This stopped being just between us the moment you fell in love with her." Kessia's sharp intake of breath cut through the tension like a knife. "Oh," Dante continued, enjoying himself. "She didn't know?" "Sebastian, you really should communicate better with the people you care about." He gestured with the gun, casual and deadly. "Sit down, both of you. We have so much to discuss." Sebastian's hand tightened on his weapon, but Dante's men shifted, guns rising to point at Kessia. The trap had closed, and the woman he loved was locked inside it with him. Sebastian and Kessia sat on the small sofa, inches apart but worlds away. She was rigid with confusion and fear, her hands clasped tight in her lap. Sebastian kept his body angled toward her, a shield even now. "You're probably wondering what's happening," Dante said conversationally, pouring himself a drink from the bar cart like he owned the place. "Let me enlighten you, Kessia." "May I call you Kessia?" She said nothing, eyes wide. "Your employer, Sebastian Santos, respected real estate developer and philanthropist, is actually one of the most dangerous men in Los Angeles." Dante swirled his drink, watching Sebastian with amused malice. "Arms trafficking, money laundering, contract killings." "Should I go on?" "Don't." Sebastian's voice was lethal. Kessia turned to look at him, and Sebastian felt that gaze like a blade. "Is he telling the truth?" The question hung in the air, heavy with consequences. Sebastian could lie. He'd built his entire life on lies. But looking at her face, seeing the betrayal already forming in her eyes, he couldn't do it anymore. "Yes." The word fell like a stone into still water, ripples spreading outward. Kessia shifted away from him. Just an inch, but it felt like a canyon opening up. "You're a criminal?" "I'm a lot of things." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "None of them good." "Oh, this is delicious," Dante laughed. "She really didn't know. All those months cleaning your house, and you never told her she was working for a monster." "Why am I here?" Kessia's voice shook but held steady. "What do you want with me?" "Excellent question." Dante leaned forward. "You see, 4 years ago, Sebastian's organization interfered with one of my operations. In the process, his sister, Sofia Santos, was killed. Collateral damage, really. Wrong place, wrong time." Sebastian's entire body went taut. "You sent the hit squad." "I sent professionals to retrieve what was mine," Dante corrected. "Your sister got in the way. These things happen in our world." He sipped his drink, unconcerned. "You've been hunting me ever since. Getting close, too. So I needed leverage." The pieces clicked into place in Sebastian's mind, each one worse than the last. "The coffee shop," he said flatly. "You were looking for leverage and found her." "Actually, I've known about Miss Rivers for 6 months." Dante's smile was cruel. "Had someone watching your house noticed how you looked at her? How you changed your schedule to be there when she arrived? How you'd find excuses to be in whatever room she was cleaning?" He turned to Kessia. "He's been in love with you for quite a while, sweetheart. Obsessively so." Kessia's head snapped toward Sebastian, shock and something else. Betrayal? Hurt? Flooding her face. "You've been watching me?" "Protecting you," Sebastian said roughly. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Her voice broke slightly. "You investigated me, didn't you? That's how you knew about my mother. About my sister's tuition. I thought you were just observant. Kind." The word kind landed like an accusation. "This is better than I imagined," Dante said. "Tell her the rest, Sebastian. Tell her how you had her phone cloned. Her apartment surveilled. How do you know she takes her coffee with cream and sugar, that she calls her mother every Tuesday at 6, that she listens to Etta James when she's sad?" Each revelation made Kessia flinch, making her slide further away on the sofa. "I was keeping you safe," Sebastian repeated, his voice strained. "Men like him," he gestured sharply at Dante. "They use people. They find your weaknesses and exploit them. I couldn't let that happen to you. So you violated my privacy instead?" Kessia stood abruptly, wrapping her arms around herself. You watched me? Controlled me? And I never knew. I never touched you. Never approached you inappropriately. Never. You lied. The words burst from her, raw and hurt. Every single day, you lied to my face. Let me believe I was safe, that I was just working for a normal man, that maybe— She stopped herself, shaking her head. God, I'm so stupid. What were you going to say? Sebastian stood too, and his men shifted, but Dante held up a hand, fascinated by the drama unfolding. Nothing. Kessia's eyes glistened. It doesn't matter now. Tell me. Maybe you saw me. The confession exploded from her. Maybe someone finally saw me as more than just the help, more than invisible. I thought, when you'd linger in rooms I was cleaning, when you'd ask about my day, I thought maybe. She laughed bitterly. But you were just keeping tabs on your investment, right? Making sure your maid wasn't a threat. Sebastian felt something crack inside his chest. That's not. Wasn't it? Tears spilled down her cheeks now. How am I supposed to know what's real? You're a criminal. A killer. And apparently obsessed with me. Should I be flattered or terrified? Both probably, Dante interjected. If we're being honest. Sebastian ignored him, focused entirely on Kessia. I was protecting you because the words stuck in his throat, years of armor making them impossible to say. Because you what? She waited, chest heaving. The silence stretched, painful and vast. That's what I thought, Kessia whispered finally. She turned to Dante, desperate. Can I go? Please. I don't want to be part of whatever this is. I'm afraid not, Dante said, almost apologetically. You're the leverage, sweetheart. The thing that makes Sebastian do what I want. And what I want, he looked at Sebastian with cold satisfaction, is for him to walk away. Leave Los Angeles. Dismantle his organization. Disappear. And if I refuse? Sebastian's hand inched toward his gun. Dante's men raised their weapons instantly, both aimed at Kessia's back. Then she dies, Dante said simply. And you get to live knowing you chose your empire over her life. The ultimatum hung in the air like smoke. Sebastian felt Kessia's eyes on him, waiting to see what he'd choose, her life or his kingdom of blood and lies. You have until sunrise, Dante continued, checking his watch. My men will keep you both here. Comfortable, but contained. At dawn, I want your answer. Your empire or her. He stood, buttoning his jacket. Choose wisely. Dante left with one of his men, leaving a single guard, a hulking figure named Ivan who positioned himself by the door, gun visible but not aimed. A reminder, not an immediate threat. The silence after Dante's exit was suffocating. Kessia sank back onto the sofa, her face in her hands. Sebastian remained standing, every muscle coiled, mind racing through impossible scenarios. He could take Ivan, probably. But Dante had more men outside, and any gunfire would bring them running. He'd built his empire on calculated violence. Now, violence would only get her killed. How long? Kessia's voice was muffled by her hands. How long what? How long have you been in love with me? She looked up, eyes red but clear. He said months. How many? Sebastian's throat tightened. This wasn't a conversation to have with a guard 10 feet away, with death circling outside. But maybe that's exactly why she was asking. Because the world was ending anyway, and lies didn't matter anymore. Since the second week, he admitted quietly. You were cleaning the library. There was this shaft of sunlight coming through the window, and you were humming something while you worked. You reached up to dust the top shelf, and you were smiling. Just smiling at nothing. At dust. He exhaled roughly. I realized I'd never seen anyone find joy in something so simple. And I wanted. He stopped. What did you want? To be worthy of being in the same room as that joy. Kessia's expression cracked, something shifting beneath the anger and fear. That's a pretty thing to say for a man who had me followed. I never said I wasn't a hypocrite. Sebastian finally sat, keeping distance between them. Everything Dante said is true. I am a monster. I've killed people. I've hurt people. I've built everything I have on fear and blood. He looked at his hands. Clean now, but never really clean. And then you walked into my life humming Etta James, and suddenly none of it meant anything anymore. So you watched me like some creep? But her voice had lost its sharp edge. I protected you like a coward, Sebastian corrected. Because actually approaching you, telling you the truth, risking you seeing me for what I really am, that terrified me more than any bullet ever has. Kessia was quiet for a long moment, processing. Ivan shifted by the door but said nothing. Your sister, she said finally. Sophia. Dante said she died because of this life. Pain lanced through Sebastian's chest. She was the only good thing in my family. My parents were criminals. I grew up in this world. But Sophia was different. Smart, kind, studying to be a doctor. His voice roughened. She wanted nothing to do with the business. I kept her separate, safe. Or so I thought. What happened? Dante's men came for a shipment I'd intercepted. Sophia was at the warehouse. Wrong place, wrong time, like he said. They opened fire. She died trying to help one of my wounded men. Sebastian's hands clenched. She died because I wasn't good enough to keep her safe. Because this world, my world, it poisons everything it touches. Is that why you pushed me away? Kessia asked softly. Because you thought you'd poison me too? I know I would. Sebastian finally met her eyes. I am poison, Kessia. Everything Dante said, everything you're thinking about me, it's all true and worse. You should hate me. You should be terrified of me. I am terrified of you, she whispered. But then she added, and I hate what you did. The lying, the watching, the control. She wrapped her arms around herself. But I don't hate you. And I don't know what that makes me. It makes you a better person than I deserve. What would you do if you discovered someone you cared about had been living a complete lie? Would the truth change how you feel, or would love survive the betrayal? Drop your thoughts below. Kessia laughed, a broken sound. You know what the worst part is? All week, I've been going on about Dante, about feeling seen for the first time. And I was so blind. You've been seeing me all along, haven't you? Every moment, every detail. Every moment, Sebastian confirmed. Every smile, every song. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. How you always leave the window open in the library because you like the jasmine. How you touch the piano keys sometimes when you think no one's watching, like you're remembering something. I used to play, she said quietly. Before my father left and money got tight. I know. I had it tuned for you. I thought maybe one day I'd ask you to play something. Tears spilled down her cheeks again. You're impossible. You're a criminal and a stalker, and you've ruined my entire sense of reality. And somehow you're also the most thoughtful person I've ever. She stopped, shaking her head. This is insane. Yes, Sebastian agreed. They sat in silence, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. Ivan checked his phone, bored. Outside, the night pressed against the windows. What are you going to do? Kessia asked finally. At sunrise. Sebastian looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who'd brought light into his darkness, who hummed Etta James and smiled at dust and made him want to be someone different. Someone better. I'm going to choose you, he said simply. No. Kessia stood abruptly. Absolutely not. Sebastian frowned. What? You don't get to do that. Her voice shook with anger now, real and fierce. You don't get to make some grand sacrifice and act like that makes everything okay. Like that erases the lies and the stalking and… I'm not trying to erase anything. Yes, you are. She paced, agitated. You think giving up your empire makes you the hero of this story? It doesn't. It makes you a martyr, and I don't want a martyr. I don't want someone who gives everything up for me and then spends the rest of his life resenting me for it. I could never resent you. You say that now. Kessia stopped, facing him. But what happens in 5 years? 10. When you're living some normal, boring life and you remember all the power you had? All the control? You think you won't look at me and remember I'm the reason you lost everything? Sebastian stood, closing the distance between them. You think so little of me? I don't know what to think of you. The confession burst from her. I don't know you. Not really. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. For 8 months, I've been falling for a man who doesn't exist. The words hit like a physical blow. Falling for. Don't. Kessia held up a hand, tears streaming now. Don't make me say it. Not here. Not like this, with guns and guards and death hanging over us. Don't make me admit that I've been in love with my employer, my criminal employer, for months and was too scared to even think it. Sebastian's world tilted. You love me. I love who I thought you were, she corrected, her voice breaking. The quiet man who lingered in doorways, who remembered how I took my coffee, who looked at me like I mattered. But that man was a lie, wasn't he? A mask you wore. No. Sebastian grabbed her arms gently, and when she didn't pull away, he continued. Everything you saw was real. The way I looked at you, the way I felt, that was the most honest I've ever been in my life. The crime, the violence, the empire, that's the mask. That's what I wear to survive in a world that would eat me alive otherwise. But with you. His voice roughened. With you, I got to be someone who noticed jasmine and tuned pianos. Someone who could want simple things. You didn't fall in love with a lie, Kessia. You fell in love with the man I could have been if I'd made different choices. But you did make those choices, she whispered. You are a killer. You have blood on your hands. How do I reconcile the man who tunes pianos with a man who… She couldn't finish. You don't, Sebastian said simply. You either accept all of me, the monster and the man, or you walk away. And I'd understand if you walked away. God knows I've given you every reason to. Kessia stared up at him, inches apart now, the space between them electric with possibility and pain. If you give up your empire, Dante wins. He gets everything. And men like him, they don't just let you walk away, do they? Sebastian's silence was answer enough. So we'd be running, she continued. Forever. Looking over our shoulders. Waiting for someone from your past to find us and finish what Dante started. That's not a life, Sebastian. That's just a different prison. Then what do you want me to do? The question came out raw, desperate. Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. I want you to fight. The words surprised them both. Kessia's eyes blazed now, fear giving way to something fiercer. I want you to stop treating me like I'm some fragile thing that needs protecting. I want you to trust me with the truth. All of it, the ugly parts included. And I want you to fight for what's yours instead of just giving up because some bastard threatens the only person you care about. Sebastian stared at her, seeing her, truly seeing her, maybe for the first time. Not the gentle maid who hummed and smiled, but a woman who'd worked 2 jobs to support her family, who'd survived in a world that tried to make her invisible and refused to disappear, who was standing in a room with armed men and a death sentence hanging over her head and demanding he fight. "You're extraordinary," he breathed. "I'm terrified," she corrected. "But I'm also done being a pawn in men's games. So tell me, do you have a plan that doesn't involve surrender or suicide?" A slow smile spread across Sebastian's face, the first genuine one in days. As a matter of fact, Ivan's phone buzzed. He glanced down, distracted. It was all the opening Sebastian needed. Sebastian moved with lethal precision. 3 steps, a calculated strike to Ivan's throat, gun grabbed and repurposed before the man hit the floor unconscious. "Stay behind me," he ordered Kessia. "What are you?" "Trust me." Sebastian checked the ammunition. "Can you do that? After everything, can you trust me right now?" Kessia looked at him, at the cold efficiency in his movements, the way violence came to him as natural as breathing. She should be horrified. Should run. "Yes," she said instead. Sebastian's expression softened for just a moment. "Then stay close." He led them out through a side door, moving through shadows with practiced ease. Outside, Dante's men were positioned at intervals. 3 visible, probably more hidden. Sebastian counted heartbeats, measured distances. "There's a car on the east side," he murmured to Kessia. "Marco's waiting. I sent him a signal earlier." At her questioning look, he added, "I tapped my watch 3 times when Ivan was checking his phone. Prearranged distress code." "You planned this." "I always have a plan." Sebastian paused at a corner, checking angles. "I just needed to know what you wanted first. If you'd asked me to walk away, I would have. But you didn't." "No," Kessia agreed. "I didn't." They made it halfway to the car before gunfire erupted. Sebastian shoved Kessia behind a stone planter, returning fire with controlled bursts. 2 of Dante's men went down. The others scattered, shouting into radios. More would come. "Sebastian." Marco appeared from the darkness, providing covering fire. "Cars 20 feet. Go." Sebastian grabbed Kessia's hand, and they ran. Bullets tore through the night air. Kessia stumbled, and Sebastian caught her, practically carrying her the last few feet. Marco opened the car door, still firing, and they dove inside. The tires screamed as they peeled away from the estate. In the back seat, Sebastian held Kessia close, checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" "No. No, I'm okay." She was shaking, adrenaline making her voice thin. "What just happened?" "I chose," Sebastian said simply. "Not surrender. Not sacrifice. I chose to fight for what's mine. For you. For us. Dante will come after us. I'm counting on it." Sebastian pulled out his phone, making a call. "This is Santis. Send the files to the FBI. Everything we have on Kovac, the arms deals, the trafficking routes, the political connections. All of it." He listened for a moment, then, "Yes, I know it implicates me too. Do it anyway." He ended the call and looked at Kessia's shocked face. "You're turning yourself in?" "I'm burning down the whole corrupt system," Sebastian corrected. "Dante, me, everyone involved. The FBI will have enough to take down 3 criminal empires by morning." His jaw tightened. "I'll probably go to prison. But Dante will too, and you'll be safe. That's what matters." Sebastian, you can't. I can. I am. He cupped her face gently. You asked me to fight. This is how I fight. Not with more violence. Not with more death. But by choosing you, your safety, your life, over everything I've built. Over everything I am. You're choosing prison over me, Kessia whispered. I'm choosing your freedom over my own, he corrected. There's a difference. The safe house Marco took them to was modest, anonymous. Dawn light was creeping through the windows when Sebastian's phone finally rang. Kovacs in custody, Marco reported. FBI picked him up an hour ago. His whole operation's collapsing. Sebastian closed his eyes. Good. There's a warrant for you too, boss. They're being decent about it. Giving you time to turn yourself in. 48 hours. Understood. He ended the call and found Kessia watching him from the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, exhausted but alive. 48 hours, she said. Not a question. Yes. And then? Then I face what I've done. Sebastian stood, crossing to her. I don't know how long the sentence will be. Could be years. Could be decades. But you'll be safe. Dante's network is destroyed. No one will come after you for revenge. Kessia was quiet for a long moment, then. Do you remember what you said in the garden house? That I fell in love with the man you could have been. I remember. You were wrong. She stepped closer, reaching up to touch his face. I fell in love with exactly who you are. The monster and the man. The killer who tunes pianos. The criminal who notices Jasmine. Her eyes filled with tears. You're not a mask, Sebastian. You're just complicated. And broken. And trying. Trying isn't enough. Not after everything I've done. Maybe not. Kessia smiled through her tears. But it's a start. Sebastian pulled her close, breathing her in, vanilla and something uniquely her. I don't deserve you. No, she agreed. But I'm choosing you anyway. All of you. Even the parts that terrify me. I'll be in prison. Then I'll visit. She pulled back to look at him. Every week. Every day they'll let me. And when you get out, however many years from now, I'll be waiting. That's not fair to you. Love isn't about fair, Kessia said simply. It's about choice. And I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. Even if it's complicated and broken and completely insane. Sebastian kissed her then, desperate and gentle and full of every word he'd never said. She kissed him back, tasting like hope and impossibility and second chances he didn't deserve but was taking anyway. When they finally pulled apart, she whispered, 48 hours. What do you want to do with them? Sebastian smiled, real and unguarded. I want to hear you play piano. So she did. In that safe house, with dawn breaking and prison waiting and the whole world burning down around them, Kessia Rivers played piano for the first time in years. And Sebastian Santos, criminal, killer, monster, man, sat beside her and listened like it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. Because it was. 2 years later, Kessia walked into a federal prison visitor's room and sat across from Sebastian. He looked thinner, tired, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. Hey, she said softly. Hey yourself. She placed her hand on the glass divider between them, and he mirrored it. Not touching but close. I have news, Kessia said. Your lawyer called. They're reducing your sentence. Good behavior. Cooperation with federal investigations. You'll be out in 3 years instead of 7. Sebastian's throat worked. 3 years. 3 years, she confirmed. And I bought a house. Small. Nothing fancy. But it has a piano. And a garden with Jasmine. She smiled. I'll be waiting. I know you will. Sebastian's voice roughened. I love you. I know, Kessia said. I love you too. Monster man and everything in between. The jealous mafia boss, no longer silent, no longer hiding, looked at the woman who'd chosen him despite everything and felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Love isn't always simple or clean. Sometimes it's messy, complicated, and requires choosing someone even when it's hard. Have you ever had to choose love over logic? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.